Student athletes face all types of pressure to perform on the field or the court, to bond with a team of all types of different individuals, and of course to keep those grades up too. Our next guest was cut from 3 different teams, so he started his own league. Then he became a collegiate coach and now is on staff with Athletes in Action, and his book, The Christian Athlete, is available today. Brian Smith, welcome to the Morning Mix. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well.
Getting a shot of that book right there, and today is the day, huh?
It is. Today is the release day, yeah.
Well, what brought you from, obviously you have a sports background,
yeah.
What brought you to becoming an author?
Yeah, so you mentioned I got cut from 3 sports. I went on to do cross country and track. It was one of the few sports that you cannot get cut from, and did pretty well. I ended up going to Wake Forest University on scholarship. I kind of grew up with a Christian background, so I always knew that God wants something to do with my sport. When I graduated from Wake Forest, I went on to become a coach at Wisconsin and started discipling athletes through Athletes in Action, and they were wrestling with the same questions I was, like, what does it look like to actually honor God with my sport? And so there weren't many answers out there, and so I tried to write a book about it.
And that is something that is taught in many churches, is to use your profession or to use your passion to exemplify Christ, right?
Absolutely.
So you decided to do this and then write all about it. We're talking obviously about being cut. Sitting on the, I'm one of them, okay? I rode the bench. I rode the bench in JV basketball, not the highest or tallest kid, right? So yeah. What does that look like? How do you deal with that or exemplify Christ when you're riding the pine?
Yeah, in the midst of it, I think the best thing you can do is to look for the wins. To start with, it's okay to be frustrated. God gave us emotions. He did not create us to be robots. And so to recognize, disappointment is okay and it's normal, and it can be God honoring to recognize that. But then you need to move forward with it. You need to really look for the wins in the midst of riding the bench. And one of the things I try to teach athletes who are in that position is to try to be the best possible teammate you could be. What would it look like for your coach and other people to recognize you as somebody who is for their teammates instead of just sitting in the corner stewing because they're not getting playing time?
That stewing, though, a lot of times kids, they're teenagers and younger kids, they're going to express frustrations maybe towards the coach. And sometimes that might not look very Christ-like.
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is where bringing a biblical ethic into the culture of sports can help redeem sports a little bit. And I would coach parents, maybe even more so than kids, to lead in this. And it starts with not gossiping behind the coach's back. And so parents are frustrated that their kids are not getting playing time. But what would it look like for the parents to lead and to try to speak well of the coach and correct their son or daughter when they're not speaking well of the coach?
Of course, you bring up the parents and the coach too, but parents' behavior during games. We get news stories about this, about how a parent just got out of control at a Little League game or a softball game. What about that? When they're actually at the game, maybe a bad call, why aren't you playing my boy, that type of stuff.
Yeah, parents get a bad rap for that, and rightfully so. There was actually a fist fight at one of the local 3rd grade games where I was from this year. Yeah, and so I think the list of when parents step into those moments is incredibly small. And so I would argue if your child is in physical danger, then it's probably time for the parent to step in. But if they're not in danger, just enjoy the game. Kids will ultimately replicate what we try to celebrate. And if they see us as parents celebrating things like complaining to the refs and complaining because of lack of playing time, our kids are going to catch on to that and start acting in similar ways. So we as parents can really lead in this well.
What about when the students themselves, the players themselves, have a conflict amongst themselves?
Yeah, I think sports is an incredible opportunity within a controlled environment for kids to figure this stuff out on their own. I think as parents, we want to step in and save the day, but sports is a controlled environment where kids can really grow and figure this out if we allow them to do that. So I think it's wise for parents just to step back and, as best as they can let the kids handle it, and then on the back end have conversations about how it went and maybe how they could do things different the next time.
Who do you think the audience is for this book? Is it really the parent of a student athlete? Is that who should be picking this up?
They can. I wrote this book specifically for an athlete
for
at a high school or college level, but it kind of margins out to pro athletes on one end, but also middle school on the other end. But I absolutely think parents can benefit from seeing what a Christian athlete should look like, and then to try to model their parenting to try to fit that.
And of course, where can we get this? It drops today. Is it on Amazon, local bookstores? Where can I find it?
Yeah, it will be in local bookstores, but if you just type into Amazon, The Christian Athlete, it should be one of the first things that pops up.
Brian, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. We encourage you to pick up this book if that's your world, The Christian Athlete. There is, by the way, a book signing where you can see Brian. He can autograph it for you. And that's happening May 5th. That's right. Thursday, May 5th at Baker Book House, right there in East Paris. You can learn more at thechristianathlete.com. We'll be right back.